cause for freedom. So we just wanted to make a campaign for demanding the rights of the detainees and their families, and to focus on the right to know.
Scambiate i canali per la traduzione.
Sì, sì.
Put it on.
Yeah,
Okay.
for translate.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. 1 second. Okay.
With the microphone, not near the...
Non te ne... Ok.
And when you speak, without the headphone, when you speak with the microphone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ok. Posso andare? Ok, sì. Grazie a tutti per essere intervenuti, buon pomeriggio. Siamo molto felici di essere qui per questo nostro secondo panel della giornata, un panel organizzato dal Festival Internazionale del Giornalismo insieme a Radio Radicale in collaborazione con il Partito Radicale. Questo incontro ha un titolo che contiene una citazione molto cara a Marco Pannella, che appunto recita: dove c'è strage di diritto c'è strage di popoli. E quello che vogliamo fare oggi, lo faremo insieme a molti relatori, è quello di tracciare un racconto inedito delle repressioni mondiali. Siamo ovviamente in un contesto importante per il giornalismo internazionale e in un contesto dove siamo quasi in dovere di dover porre al centro del nostro pensare, del nostro agire, anche un'idea differente di informazione. Allora voi ascolterete alcune storie, alcune criticità mondiali che molto probabilmente non trovano spazio sulle prime pagine dei giornali, non trovano spazio neanche sulle 14esime, 15esime pagine dei giornali o delle televisioni o delle radio. Storie che in realtà ci raccontano che il nostro emisfero, la nostra terra è un posto da un lato complesso e da un lato abbastanza semplice, ovvero che lì dove appunto il diritto viene meno, vi è sempre contemporaneamente una strage di innocenti, di civili, di popoli. Io lascio immediatamente la parola a Laura Harth, che assieme a me coordinerà questo incontro, proprio innanzitutto per iniziare a presentarvi gli ospiti, per dar loro la parola e per riflettere assieme su quanto anche noi come singoli giornalisti, cittadini, attivisti possiamo fare per far uscire dal cono d'ombra certe storie, certe narrazioni e certe soppressioni dei più elementari diritti umani. Grazie.
Grazie Massimiliano, anch'io ringrazio moltissimo il Festival internazionale di Perugia, ringrazio Radio Radicale e ringrazio i nostri speaker che sono venuti qua oggi da diverse parti del mondo. Li ringrazio non solo per essere qui, ma perché vogliono e da tempo condividere le loro storie che permettono a noi di conoscere una realtà che possiamo dire magari purtroppo dal nostro punto di vista non impattano solo loro, non impattano solo i paesi da dove provengono, i cittadini da quei paesi, ma sempre di più hanno impatto diretto anche su di noi, un impatto che spesso è molto nascosto, di cui non sappiamo, o meglio detto, di cui non possiamo sapere, perché da un lato abbiamo un sistema informativo che veramente censura certe questioni, soprattutto quando si parla di diritti umani, da un altro lato abbiamo anche delle potenze mondiali molto forti, come la Cina, di cui parleremo soprattutto oggi, che fanno di tutto per nascondere queste storie, per coprire queste voci, e se non ci riescono direttamente nel paese, incarcerando anche le persone, per esempio Jianli Yang, che è qua oggi, che è stato 5 anni in un carcere a Pechino, quando non ci riescono in questo modo fanno pressioni anche direttamente sulle nostre istituzioni democratiche, sulla nostra stampa e sulla voce degli attivisti che cercano di parlarne. Dunque sono molto felice che siete qui, vi ringrazio, sono ancora di più felice che avete tutti decisi di essere parte, iscritti al Partito Radicale Non Violento Transnazionale, Transpartito, perché rappresentate tutti una storia importante, siete tutti rappresentanti di organizzazioni importanti che lottano per i diritti, però insieme in questa organizzazione troviamo questa forza comune per affrontare delle sfide così grandi. Vi presento brevemente i speaker. Il primo è Jianli Yang, è presidente e fondatore di Initiatives for China, è stato in quanto rappresentante degli studenti cinesi negli Stati Uniti, presente a Tiananmen quando ci furono le famose proteste, è stato appunto incarcerato anche per le sue attività per i diritti umani, per la democrazia in Cina a Pechino, e posso dire non lavora solo per i diritti umani in Cina, è molto attivo anche sulle questioni dell'opposizione cubana, lavora su tutto la zona dell'Asia Pacifico e probabilmente anche in tante altre realtà che forse anch'io ancora non conosco. Poi abbiamo Dolkun Isa, presidente del World Uyghur Congress e vicepresidente dell'UNPO, che è l'organizzazione composta da popoli e nazioni non rappresentati, che lotta appunto per far conoscere le loro storie e far riconoscere i loro diritti che sono sanciti internazionalmente ma spesso non applicato. Poi infine, ma non ultimo direi, abbiamo André Gattolin, senatore francese per En Marche, in precedenza è stato senatore con i Verdi e dunque diciamo uno spirito liberale, ecologista e soprattutto anche radicale, che su queste questioni, soprattutto anche nel sud-est asiatico, è sempre stato molto molto attivo. Allora abbiamo posto la domanda: la Cina oggi cosa rappresenta? Quali sono le realtà interne, ma anche quali sono le politiche esterne della Cina e quale impatto hanno oggi sul nostro mondo, sul mondo occidentale, sui principi di democrazia, di Stato di diritto e dei diritti umani. Dunque darei subito la parola a Jianli Yang.
Thank you, Laura. It is such a pleasure to be in Perugia, and it's a great honor for me to speak at the International Journalism Festival. I'm supposed to talk about China. China is huge. It's an elephant in our living room. Nobody can avoid it. But because China is so huge, the issues are so complex that it takes volumes to describe what it is. the current situation is, let alone finding solutions to democratize China. But I will try my best to give a brief summary and then open for discussion. And the human rights in China today under Xi Jinping is the worst since the 1989 Tiananmen crackdown. The situation for the Chinese human rights activists is drastically deteriorating since 2012, when Xi Jinping took power. Xi Jinping and his regime is convinced that the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, is losing control over the Chinese people and Chinese society, and particularly in the ideological front, despite numerous political campaigns to brainwash the Chinese people, particularly the young. Xi Jinping believes that the regime's security is in grave danger. All of this require the regime to take relentless and harsh measures to regain its control. More than his predecessors, Xi Jinping perceives that the Western ideas spread via the internet has eroded the minds of the young people, and the foreign reactionary forces of peaceful evolution have become a real threat, which is fundamentally undermining the communist rule in China. Therefore, Xi Jinping has taken a staunch position to resolutely oppose any Western ideals, such as universal values and constitutional democracy, which, according to Xi Jinping, have consistently infiltrated China to slander its socialist path. The regime's growing sense of highly insecurity and deepening alienation from its ideology and politics among young Chinese is pushing the party to put the entire population under a total surveillance. In the past, the Chinese regime often took a defensive positions against the democratic values and ideas. But today, Xi Jinping has forged a more offensive warfare with a grand strategy seeking to suppress any ideas that deviate from the CCP's thinking. Xi Jinping's recent suppression has become increasingly violent in order to keep every citizen in line with the regime's ideology. The regime targeted the country's liberal-minded leaders, public intellectuals, and university professors, and sought after human rights lawyers who were subsequently rounded up, forced to disappear, detained, arrested, sentenced, tortured, and sometimes even killed. There is an emerging pattern of death of activists in prisons and released on medical parole. Retribution is also handed out to activist family members. At the same time, Xi Jinping has launched content cleanup campaign to remove and to ban information that the regime deems to be harmful. Xi Jinping's repression against the minority group has also been ratcheted up. So I think my friend Dolkun can give a very good testimony on it. Today, there exists no space whatsoever for dissenting voices or any rights advocacy NGOs in China. While Xi Jinping is relentlessly repressing the dissent inside China, his offensive and overreach exceeds far beyond China's border. The regime has been creating new international norms, such as a community with a shared future for mankind, with core socialist values, and subverting UN efforts to protect human rights, with the aim of globally expanding the regime's political and economic model. China's rising global presence and aggressive expansion of commerce, grabbing global natural resources, and rapid military deployment has far-reaching implications for the post-Cold War world order. For example, China bought and built 49 ports in 19 countries with critical geopolitical locations, which include Greece, Myanmar, Israel, Djibouti, Morocco, Spain, Italy, Belgium, Côte d'Ivoire, Egypt, and other countries. China exports corruption worldwide to gain foreign political and economic influence. For example, former Hong Kong Secretary for Home Affairs Patrick Ho Chi-minh was accused of offering bribes worth of a total of US $2.9 million to prominent African leaders and ministers. A US federal court in New York has brought corruption charges against him, and he was arrested in January of this year. China has deeply infiltrated into US to influence American politics. I think it's same true elsewhere. Investigative writer Peter Schweizer reviewed in his new book, Secret Empires, how the American political class hides corruption and enriches family and friends. His book involves many top American political families. China is gaining influence over American policymakers by directly and indirectly funding thousands free congressional trips to China using the legislative loopholes, one of which is the exemption of foreign-financed culture exchange trips, making oversight of exchange trips for congressional staff falls into bureaucratic no man's land. The regime often shows the congressional members and the staff with expensive gifts, cuisine, food, entertainment, and more while staying in luxury hotels in China. Since 1990s, China has been secretly funding US political campaigns, perhaps much worse than Russia. The Chinese regime gaining foreign influence by spying on the world. Examples including big data collected globally through Chinese companies everywhere, and a huge espionage network. French newspaper Le Monde reported that China donated the African Union headquarters in the Ethiopia capital of Addis Ababa, and also donated this organization's computer network, but it allegedly inserted a backdoor that allowed it to transfer confidential data. It's happening everywhere, actually. China's global kidnapping campaign also shows its increasing global influence. This program has gone on for years under the disguise of anti-corruption. The regime has launched 2 programs codenamed Skynet and Fox Hunt, supposedly to target corrupt Chinese officials living abroad. But in effect, it aims kidnapping the Chinese citizens that the regime doesn't like. The regime's Central Commission on Discipline and Reinspection reported to have repatriated more than 3,000 individuals since Xi Jinping took power in 2012. In 2016 alone, the Skynet caught and took 132 Chinese back to China, among which only 134 are government officials, and 19 people on the Interpol red notice. In order to exert its global influence, China has actively been seeking leadership in many international organizations. For example, China has been politicizing Interpol and using it to kidnap and repatriate Chinese citizens in the name of anti-corruption and anti-terrorism. In the past, Interpol's constitution has emphasized respect for human rights and the principle of political neutrality in its actions against suspected terrorists, criminals, and fugitives. But politicized decisions in recent years have seriously damaged its credibility. Interpol is helping Beijing's dictators to repress and persecute political dissidents and human rights activists through issuing red notice, essentially international arrest warrants. Since Xi Jinping continued to power in 2012, Interpol has issued about 200 red notices a year at the request of Beijing. Many of these red notices requested by China are politically motivated. Sitting next to me, Dolkun Isa was one of the victims. You have a good testimony. In November 26, Meng Hongwei, a deputy minister of China's public security, a notorious human rights abuser, became the first Chinese president of the Interpol, allowing Beijing to further manipulate and abuse the system from within the organization. There is a new due process for appeals or for accountability, and no procedures to prevent wrongful arrest and extradition. I think my time is running out. I want to quickly wrap it up. If the international community continues to allow Chinese regime to use Interpol as a repressive tool, the organization will lose all of its credibility. We must demand a reform of this much abused and politically motivated red notice system. Credible evidence must be provided when requesting a red notice, and a fair process to challenge the red notice must be in place and accessible. In summary, for sure, while Xi Jinping becoming the most powerful leader since Mao Zedong, a president forever, a president for life, the country has fallen into one of the darkest and the most expansionistic moments in its modern history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jianli. Before giving the floor to Dolkun, who, as you said, was one of the victims of the Interpol Red Notice policy, we can say a policy with Chinese characteristics. So maybe Dolkun will tell you how he managed to get rid of it. But I want to, before giving you the floor, Dolkun, because we're in Italy and I see a lot of young faces, young journalists, I want to take the advantage to briefly reintroduce you, because I think it is kind of ridiculous that in Italy I still have to introduce you. Your case should have been on the first pages of every Italian newspaper last July, of every TV news, in the 8 o'clock news, let's say, because what happened was Dolkun was invited by a senator of the Italian Republic, Senator Luigi Compagna, to hold a press conference within the Italian Senate, where he was invited to speak about the situation in China, in the Xinjiang region, East Turkestan. What happened was Dolkun arrived, nothing happened, he spent 24 hours in Rome, everything was great. When we arrived at the Senate, 5 minutes before the beginning of the press conference, Dolkun was stopped by the anti-terrorist police in Italy, asked to provide ID. Dolkun is also a German citizen, something that he has obtained because there was no proof of terrorist activities. Obviously, he gave his ID. That did not suffice, so he was taken into custody for about 4 hours. We never knew exactly what happened. We know that thankfully the German embassy got involved, and so he was released after 4 hours. But what we know was, obviously, the time to hold the press conference in the Senate was over. So we had an alternative press conference, obviously, that is not the same. When Dolkun was invited the next day by the same senator to go to the Senate, to at least enter the Senate, to have a coffee, he was denied entrance again. What is very grave about this story is not just what happened to you, Dolkun, but I think it was against the rights of an elected member of the Italian Senate, who has the freedom to organize this kind of activities, who followed all the procedures in requesting that this activity be held, and who was stopped in doing what are his parliamentary tasks. And that subsequently, this member of parliament, not only did he not receive any explanations about what happened, he was not even able to communicate this to his constituents, to the people who elected him, to the Italian audience. Because we are sure, we know, except for Radio Radicale, there was not one news article, not one TV article, not one radio show that talked about this. And we know that some journalists were working on it. So there must have been pressures also there. So I hope that by being able to tell you this, it shows what Jianli was saying, how big the pressure is and how much even on one single person they are willing to invest. The Chinese government is willing to invest everything, their relationships with democratic countries, to stop these people from speaking. So Dolkun, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Laura. You introduced me, and also thanks Radio Radicale to give me such opportunity to speak here. Well, Yang Jianli already talking about on China. Now I'm talking about a little bit the territory and the people which has been occupied by China. So it is really, and the topic of this panel, unpublished story. Really, I would like this place, this nation is really unknown, unpublished place, unpublished nations. Well, I'm talking about Uyghurs. I'm Uyghurs, and Uyghurs is an ethnic nation of East Turkestan. We call East Turkestan, but China has called Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. This East Turkestan has been illegally occupied by Communist China in 1949. East Turkestan, the ancestral home of the Uyghur people, with more than 20 million Uyghur are living now. But official Chinese figure, about 11.2 million Uyghur living there. Territorial size is 1.8 million square kilometer. It is mean 5 times larger than Germany. I don't know how many times larger than Italy, but is most of place is territorial size so huge, but 60% place is inhabitable. Mostly desert. Second large desert after Sahara, Taklamakan Desert is in East Turkestan. Only 4.5% place inhabitable. But Chinese government all the time mention is Xinjiang is a large territory, small population. That's why we have to make population transport this area. Much likely Tibet's Uyghur people have been heavily persecuted and oppressed by the Chinese government. There has been an ongoing attempt by the Chinese government to assimilate Uyghur population, and any expression of dissent has been punished harshly by Chinese authority. However, while Uyghur people have been persecuted for many years, but last 5 years in particular has seen a dramatically escalations under the rule of Xi Jinping. Chinese government has adopted two interconnected general strategy in the repression of the Uyghurs, denying Uyghurs their basic right to enjoy their religious freedom, Uyghur culture, and the native language in order to erode the Uyghur identity and assimilate the Uyghur population, and the implementation of massive security and the surveillance regime aimed at monitoring and controlling the Uyghur people. Recent amendments made to regulation of the religious affairs and the introduction of the so-called counter-terrorism law have effectively established Chinese state control over aspects of religious in East Turkestan. Today is 21st century. Is religious freedom, language freedom, freedom expression is a very common issue. But today, and even Chinese Constitution, Article 36, guarantee religious freedom. But in the reality, today is religious persecution is one of the biggest issues in China. For the Chinese Christians, Tibet Buddhist and Uyghur Muslim, and has been persecuted by China. Last year, since the last year and the before last year, Chinese government forbidden fasting because we are Muslim. Because we are Muslim. Before the 2011, September 11, 2001, before the September 11 terrorist attack in US, Chinese government has never mentioned Uyghur activism as a terrorism. But after September 11, one night, Chinese government immediately changed the language, accused all the Uyghur activists as terrorism. Because we are Muslim, it's very easy to crack down. And today, even Quran, copy of the Quran is forbidden. You cannot keep the Quran at home. It doesn't matter if you're a believer, or just scholar, or just you want to keep one copy. It is impossible. And fasting is forbidden. Maybe BBC and CNN, all the international media reported last year during the Ramadan. Next month coming is Ramadan as well. And what will be, it's maybe the same situation will be happening. And also, you know, in the, if you visit East Turkestan, you can see special regulation of the Chinese Communist Party. Under 18 years old, people doesn't enter the mosque. Women, employer, student, teachers, retired men, everyone doesn't allow go to the mosque. Who else? And even during the Ramadan time last year was happening, gathering all the imam, religious guys, and forced to dance in front of mosque. You cannot see any example around the world so strong and insulting the religious dignity. And also today, Muslim name actually is not Muslim name. It is we used. It is the Uyghur tradition. We cannot give our baby this Islamic name. For example, Mehmet, Semet, Aisha, Khadija. It is forbidden. No, since April last year. And even if you age under 16 years old, you have to change your name. It is the situation. And during the Ramadan time, forcibly to drink and eat, students. Normally, government doesn't care. Students have a food or drinking, but just testing, because some people secretly, hidingly fasting. That's why Chinese government testing during the lunch time provide water and food, force you to drink and eat. It is you drink or not eat, it is a personal choice. But government forced it to drink it. Here. So it is the situation in Turkestan, but all the Islamic world just silenced, all the time supports the Chinese government. You know, nobody helped us. Even, you know, a couple of years ago, one of the guys in the United States want to make announcement and saying, burning Quran. All the Muslims won't stand up. But today, China really burning of the Quran, but nobody care it. No, even Uyghur language is under threat since September 2017. Actually, 2004, Chinese government implemented bilingual education system. It means Chinese and Uyghur education system. According to the Chinese constitution and the autonomic law, Uyghur language is official language, even today too. But in the reality, we cannot use the Uyghur language at school. And until 2017, last year, so-called bilingual education system, but actually it's the Chinese education system. But since 2017, last year, just take off the mask, just saying is Uyghur language forbidden. To reinforce this practice of cultural assimilation, Chinese government has created a high advantage security and surveillance regime in Turkestan. Chinese government has created truly dystopian nightmare in my homeland, with thousands of police present every major city. Last year, some 90,000 new police jobs were advertisement. The every move Uyghur citizen is watched, monitored, and recorded by the network, security cameras, roadblocks, and the internet censorship. The government, Chinese government, has also collected DNA sample of the Uyghur people. As we speak, an estimate 1 million Uyghur, almost 1/10 of total population in Turkestan, is re-education camp. Actually, it's so-called re-education camp. Actually, it is Nazi-style concentration camp. This constitutes one of the largest massive arbitrary detention in modern times. Almost all Uyghur men are being rounded up and sent to this camp by Chinese police to be politically re-education in order to strip them of their Uyghur identity. Those who are detained are not provided with any warrant, are given no access to justice, and are being detained for indefinite period of time. In this way, 100,000 of Uyghurs have effectively disappeared into the camps. Most of Uyghur family living abroad have family or friends who have disappeared. Just I will tell you one example. One of the Uyghurs, very prominent Uyghur scholar and the religious figure, Muhammad Saleh, who translate Quran in order to the Chinese government, 1980s, but 2017, December, he sent to the re-education camp. That time his age was 82 years old. And he was the re-education camp and passed away just a couple of months later. Even my brother, my two brothers, one younger brother, my older brother, professor, they are also disappeared, no? Since almost 1 year, I haven't any contact with them. My father is 20 years old, guys. Since 1 year, I haven't contact with them. It is 21st century. It's a communication century. But I don't know. I have no idea. My father still alive or died. You must be asking yourself what happened that caused Chinese government to crack down so harshly. This answer partly lies version of Xi Jinping and especially Belt and Road Initiative. As geographically, Turkestan makes it's in the gateway from China to Central Europe and the Middle East. It has not become crucial to success Belt Road Initiative. Whereas Turkestan exists on the periphery of the Chinese policy for much its history, it has not become main focus and integral to the large plan of the CCP. As Xi Jinping's flagship project, success on the Belt and Road Initiative is crucial for his political survival. To ensure its success, he has engaged in a policy of stability at all costs in East Turkestan. The Belt Road Initiative has not only been incredibly harmful for the Uyghur people, but also poses large threat to the rest of the world. Projects like Belt and Road Initiative show China has global ambitions and wishes to upset the current international and reform it in its image. The Belt Road Initiative seeks to realign the world with China at its center. While China's claim that Belt and Road benefit all parties, it is a purely economic initiative. In reality, it is a direct attack on the state sovereignty and creates relationship of the dependence of China. By design, China provides loan, workers, material to build their massive infrastructure project. When the country are unable to repay, the Chinese government instead insists of loaning infrastructure or having access to important natural resources as payment. We have already seen this occur in Sri Lanka, where a country's largest port is now under control of Chinese government, and the Maldives, where there have been reported massive land grabs by the Chinese government. This is already happening all across Africa, and will soon occur in countries along the proposed road of the Belt and Road Initiative. Western democracy is not exempt for this pressure and influence. We have witnessed growing Chinese influence across Europe and international institutions, even United Nations. China has been active in trying to exploit leverage and divide European Union using promise of economic investment. We saw last year as China successfully lobbied Greece to block a joint European Union statement at the United Nations Human Rights Council, which criticized China's human rights record. We have seen massive increase Chinese propaganda effort in Europe. Across the world, especially in Europe, propaganda events supported by Chinese government. I personally witnessed, because of the Chinese influence in Europe, already Laura explained what was happening in Italy for me last year. It was not only one example. Until now, I had several experience around the world. I was detained in South Korea, 2009. I was invited to one of the conference. I was detained 4 days. Chinese asked the South Korea government to send back me to China. Even I'm the German citizen, but interviewed by the German Foreign Ministry and the United States. Last minute, I was sent back to Germany. 2016, by Yang Jianli, he organized one international conference in Dharamsala, in India. He invited me. I got a visa, but Chinese government made pressure to the India government. I got electronic visa, but after the pressure, then my electronic visa was denied. And last year, I was in the United Nations, New York, attending UN Indigenous Forum. I was attending at the opening second day, 3 days, but the day of 3, I was kicked out from the United Nations as well. Yes, it is China not only destroying in the Europe or some of the neighboring country, but also trying to monopolize and the United Nations human rights system. Yang Jianli already talking about how influenced the Interpol. China influence is world growing steady. If the nation of the world who value human rights, democracy, human dignity are not able to unite and stand up to China's operations that Uyghur, Tibet, Chinese civilian people are expressing will surely spread. It is only through united, through international community, coming together to demand that Chinese government respect the lives and the basic rights of the Uyghurs, Tibetan, Southern Mongolia, and the Chinese people, that we have a chance to improve the situation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dolkun. Senator Gattolin, we've heard a lot about the Chinese strategy, both inside China, outside China. We've heard about the surveillance in place, the new Silk Road, the imposition of an economic and political view for the world, their investments in Africa, in Asia, but also directly in the US, in Europe. So we know what their strategy is. It's quite clear. It's a long-term strategy. What is the Western strategy? What instruments do we have to respond to these kind of problems?
Thank you, Laura. First, I would like to thank our two friends for the testimony, because I think it's very important to understand what happened in China, but also what the China is creating outside. Because I can say that today, and this is not pure parallel, pure words, our domestic democracy in Occident, in Western country, is under the threat of China. We know that with Russia, we see fake news, we see some will of disturbing or manipulating our national election during the last presidential election in France, for the Brexit in America. We see less the power that China is taking our own system. I said that because as a parliamentarian, I was first elected in 2011. I immediately joined the group on for international information of Tibet at the Senate. I was yet a militant of the Transnational Radical Party for many, many years, till the beginning of the 80s, so I was very involved in the Tibetan cause. And when I began my job, it was 6 or 7 years ago, all my friends belonging to this group say, okay, you know, you will have some small pressure from China, but they will do nothing. They'll talk and they ask you to have a censor. But, you know, they speak a lot, they do nothing. I can testimony that in 5 years, they totally changed the way of acting. This is no more soft power, it's hard power. Really, they put the pressure. 1 year ago, I was organizing at the Senate still a meeting about the economy in China, all the things are going in the country. And I've asked to some scholars from Great Britain belonging to China's science center to come. They say yes. And at the end, 1 week or 2 weeks before the colloque, the meeting, everybody say, I can't come. Why? Because they decide to cut all the head, all the scientific head they gave us, all the visa to visit China if we come to your meeting in Paris. And so many things like that. And it's always, the pressure is higher and higher. I remember many years ago when a French president got to visit the Chinese president, it was possible to talk about difficult things, not too loudly, but you can speak of human rights. During the latest years, it is rather impossible. I remember President Hollande I met him before his trip to Peking, to Beijing. Say, okay, I will talk about that. I will talk about human rights to Xi Jinping. And when he come back, he say, I've talked, I say nothing. I discuss with, now he's no more president, I can't say that to personal advisor. She say, she never asked the question. He was not enough secure to say, I asked the question. Very soon, at the beginning of the year, President Macron, I belong to the same movement. I'm from La République En Marche, elected as a senator as République En Marche. Before going in China, we had discussion, we have talks, and we decide to, I asked him to talk with other association about 15 critical cases of freedom concerning. I can't give the list because the Elysee asked me not to say the name, but there was some Uyghurs people, Tibetan people, and also Democrats, Chinese, and so on. And this time, I have the testimony of someone. He talked about that. He tried to talk. They say there was no answer. And they say, do not speak of that outside. Do not give the list, because if you give the list, we'll do nothing. It would be a strong pressure. So we didn't publish the list of the people. But they say that something would happen in the weeks after the visit. For the moment, nothing's happened. We can say it. So the way they consider, imagine a country as France, where we import 40 billion euro a year from China. We export less than 10 billion. We are clients, and we do not have the possibility to say something. They say, if you not agree with that, it's impossible. But it's only a few examples, but we have more and more. It's more and more difficult to make a demonstration inside Paris in favor of Tibet. Last time, for the 10th of March, every time we have at the Paris des Libertés in Paris, we have a gathering, and after that we go on demonstration in front of the embassy of China. This year, and for 2 years, it is impossible because there is so many demonstrations in Paris, so it's impossible to organize it. We see that the pressure is harder and harder, and the pressure we got as parliamentarians is nothing compared to the pressure put on the executives and the people from our government. And what we see is this so-called soft power became hard power, because when China launched the new Silk Road, okay, you tell that they made many investments. But at the beginning, when they launched this project, it was 5 years ago, 2013, 13 years, I think, and it was supposed to have a cost of $1,800 billion. It's a huge cost, but it's China today can do that. But every day, every month, we have a new Silk Road, one in the North Siberia, one through the Arctic, a new, 1 month ago, 2 months ago, they announced that they will have a new Silk Road, maritime Silk Road to South America, and someone tried to totalize the cost. And today we are around a cost of more or less 10,000 billions dollars or euros. It's incredible. I know that China is very powerful, is rich, has a very high level of influence on the world trade. But today, China is very creative. They create a kind of narrative all over the world, telling to all the country, especially the less developed country, but some of the also BRICS, the emerging country telling that do not care of a Western country. Western country can give you some help, open the market, but they ask you condition. They ask you condition in the way the work, the labor is organized. They ask you condition about environmental, climate condition. And moreover, sometimes they ask you some condition about human rights, or also sometimes the way that you will organize the next election. Come with us. There is no condition, no political condition. We don't care what happened about human rights or about social rights. Come with us. Could you imagine that China will give money, or will give promise of money, because that's the reality today, because the plan is unrealistic, really. If you know the global economy, no one, even China, can spend thousands and thousands of billions like that. But it became narratives, very strong narratives, that put China at the center. And it seems credible to most of the country, because China is really now powerful. China has a long-term view. Most of our democratic countries are on the short-term view, because they fear the next financial crisis by 1 or 2 years. So the emergency is to keep money. If we have a new contract with China for some billions of dollars, we take it. We do not negotiate. China say, we see the future. Okay, we're interested by a maritime Arctic road at the center of the North Pole, where there's still ice, because by half a century, there will be no ice. So we have some settlement, yes, in Iceland. We have some contract with Greenland. For the moment, it is not rentable. But it gives some credibilities. And they use, when they launch the new Silk Road, it was a kind of copy of what the Americans have done after the Second World War with the Marshall Plan, this kind of massive aid to help everybody. And they put them in a situation, or they recreate the condition of the global organization. And with that, they put pressure, because when you have the Greece in a bad situation, they want to sell the harbor of Le Pirée, you find immediately someone to buy, because this is not 100 billions of dollars. That's only some hundreds of millions of dollars. It's less. So they buy everything like that. But I think they let support that the things would be okay. I say okay, but perhaps it's a bit long. But it was a kind of example to show that everybody has our economy, but also our democratic country, are under pressure of the short term, because we have no more new project for the world, a new equal world. We are in a very bad situation. And I say that our democracy, inside democracy, is at risk due to this pressure, more than the pressure done by Russia today. Thank you.
Allora, grazie a Laura Harth che ha organizzato e moderato questo incontro, grazie ai nostri ospiti. Vedete, noi abbiamo cercato in un'ora di tempo, insomma, di cercare di darvi di accendere una luce su quanto accade all'interno della Cina, all'interno di quest'area di crisi. Abbiamo sempre l'idea fondamentalmente che lì dove non vi sia un conflitto dichiarato non ci sia un'area di crisi geopolitica, un'area di crisi del diritto e dello Stato di diritto. Quello che insomma le storie che abbiamo raccontato qui oggi ci dimostrano esattamente il contrario. L'ultima considerazione che faccio prima di salutarvi, mi riaggancio a quello che diceva il senatore André Gattolin, c'è sempre un grado di consapevolezza scarso su quello che accade in alcuni quadranti, ma in qualche modo quel grado di consapevolezza scarso fa anche il paio con la cosiddetta vulgata, con il giornalismo abbastanza superficiale. Noi oggi siamo concentrati ovviamente sulle aree di influenze russe all'interno del nostro continente, che sono anche queste, a mio avviso, un'emergenza fondamentale, e qui vorrei dirlo molto chiaramente perché in questi giorni io ho assistito a una corsa vergognosa di tanti miei colleghi che difendono a spada tratta la Russia di Putin, che difendono a spada tratta regimi dove i giornalisti sono imprigionati, uccisi, e credo che fondamentalmente questo sia quanto di più vergognoso si possa fare all'interno dello scacchiere oggi, così come vedo tanti giornalisti che corrono fondamentalmente ad applaudire i primi ministri di stati fantoccio o la stessa Cina per paura che questo leda le relazioni commerciali tra il nostro paese, il nostro continente e appunto questi paesi. Ecco, io penso che forse, come diceva Orwell, forse un giorno ci ritroveremo con milioni di merci in magazzino e nessun cittadino libero a poterle utilizzare. Credo che questo sia quello che parzialmente sta accadendo e credo insomma che le testimonianze e l'impegno politico di Laura, di André, che abbiamo assistito qui oggi, ci debbano in qualche modo impegnare a far sì che anche noi come attori della comunicazione globale troviamo spesso quel coraggio che ci manca nel fare un post su Facebook, un Twitter, nello scrivere un articolo e nel dirci che fondamentalmente non esiste giornalismo libero se non viene esercitato in un paese in cui lo Stato di diritto è forte, che esso si chiama Putin, che esso si chiama Cambogia, che si chiami Cina, che si chiami qualsiasi altro paese. Quindi questa è la considerazione finale che volevo fare, che volevo donarvi. Grazie per essere stati così numerosi e per aver ascoltato così pazientemente. Vi auguriamo un buon proseguimento di festival e un buon proseguimento di giro, insomma, all'interno di questo bel villaggio così libero e pieno di temi. Grazie a tutti.